Let's see how to install Windows 11 in a virtual machine on Proxmox. What I'm going to show you is not what a typical user does, but it's awesome. So get ready. What's up, Geek Army? Anand here. Today I'm going to show you how I install Windows 11 as a virtual machine in Proxmox. Proxmox version 8 to be specific, which has a bunch of different improvements, including better compatibility for Windows 8. Everybody has their reasons to run Windows in a virtualized environment. For me, it is to create a virtual PC that my family members can share and access using remote desktop. This is not any normal setup. I'm going to show you a bunch of different tweaks to enhance your experience and build a lean, mean virtual machine. Look at that, it even rhymes. The official Windows ISO image comes with a bunch of different bloatware. It even forces you to sign in to Microsoft account, which I personally do not like sometimes. So I'm going to show you an alternative way to do it. In addition, I'm going to show you 5 tweaks to perform as well. But all of that later in this video. First, let's get started with installing Windows 11 as a virtual machine in Proxmox. Okay, we're going to first start by downloading the ISO files that are required to get started, which is basically the Windows installation image and an additional ISO image, which I'm going to show you right now. There are a bunch of different ways to do it. You can head over to the official download page, which I'll put the link in the description below. Right here, download the Windows 11 disk image ISO for x64 devices. There's only one option, so pick that and download, and you should have the ISO file ready. I've already downloaded it, but this is how you can do it. But as promised, I'm going to show you an alternative image that has all the bloatware removed. It's not going to force you to sign into Microsoft account. It's called Tiny11. Right here is the ISO image that you can download, which I've already done so, and it's been saved. Tiny11 is just one modified version of Windows 11. There are other ones that exist. Another famous one is the Ghost Spectre Windows 11 super light version. I'm going to be using the Tiny11 today. And the last one we need is the VirtIO drivers. So once again, I'll put the link in the description below, but right here, if you scroll down, there is a link to download the latest stable versions. I've already done so. I have the ISO file. So let's see how to get started. Let's head back over to my Proxmox instance, right? All of my ISO files are stored in the attached SSD device. So I'm going to head over to my SSD right there, and I'm going to head over to ISO files. Use the upload button right there. Browse for the 3 ISO images that we just downloaded. Well, 2. I have the official Windows ISO, Tiny11 ISO, and the VirtIO drivers. If you want to go with the official Windows ISO, then pick that and the VirtIO drivers. I have already uploaded all 3 images to my Proxmox. Here you can see the official Windows ISO file. I also have Tiny11 ISO file right there and the VirtIO Windows drivers ISO file right there. So we're ready to get started. So what do? Go here to create virtual machine, and then we're gonna call this, I already have some test Windows 11 installation just to show you for comparison purposes. So I'm gonna put 403 for this, just so they're right next to each other. Pick whatever you want. Let's call this Tiny11 test. Name it whatever you want. We're gonna have it start during boot. This was not something that you were able to do with Proxmox version 7. Now it's possible. I will show you why it's possible now. Then in the ISO tab, pick where your ISO files are stored. In my case, it's the SSD. So I will go over there. I'm gonna pick Tiny11. Pick the official Windows ISO file if you so prefer. Then in the guest OS, notice that I have the advanced option checked here just so I could show you some things. So for now, pick Windows. It should already show you the most recent version right there. Now this is again new in Proxmox version 8. We're gonna add the VirtIO drivers ISO image as well. So check that box, pick where it is stored, in my case in the SSD, and we're gonna pick the ISO file we just downloaded. We're done with this step. Head over to the next one. There are some default options already selected for you. We'll just have to fill in a few things. So here we go. You can leave all of that as is. Head over to EFI storage right there and pick where you want that to be. Mine is going to be on the ZFS local drive. Next, on the right side, VirtIO SCSI single. This again is something new. In the previous version, this was the default one. This is the newer and better one, so just leave it as is. We're going to enable QEMU guest agent. QEMU guest agent allows Proxmox to interact in a better way with the virtual machine. For example, it allows startup, shutdown, and run a few other functions inside the virtual machine. So it's good to have that. And next, TPM is enabled by default. If you choose the official Windows ISO file, then you really need TPM, but the modified Windows ISO files, TPM requirement has been removed in some of the versions. We're gonna leave it as is. We'll pick storage location, the same one for TPM storage. Next, head over to the next page, which is the disks. We're gonna specify the SCSI disk where we're gonna install Windows 11, which is going to be, the storage is going to be local ZFS. In my case, it could be different for you. And we're gonna bump up the disk size from the default 32 gigabytes to 64, or a safer bet, if you're going to install a bunch of different apps, would be 72 gigabytes. And we're going to enable disk guard, which is nice to have for an SSD. We're going to enable SSD emulation. We're going to enable backup. If you prefer, you can add additional disks. I do so in my normal setup, but it's not a requirement. All of my files are in my Synology NAS. I mean, shared files are in my Synology NAS, which will be mounted later on. So 72 gigabytes is more than enough for right now. Okay, moving over to CPU, my Proxmox host has 16 cores. I'm gonna allocate maybe 8 to 12. Let's pick 8 for this test purpose, but you could go higher. Then what we're gonna do is we're gonna change the type to host. Windows will reach out to the Proxmox host to find out what type of CPU we're running, so we'll pick that here. Next, no other changes here. So next, we're gonna define the memory. Default is 4 gigabytes, but we're gonna go a little bit higher. I have 64 gigabytes on my Proxmox host, so let's go 8 gigabytes. You could go higher. Again, in my normal VM, Windows VM, which is this one here, number 200, I go 16 gigabytes. Then in the network tab, there's really nothing to change, so we're gonna leave everything as is. Now we're ready to get started. So we're gonna check start after created. So I'm gonna finish. Now if I go over to the 403 virtual machine that we just created and go to console, we're gonna start. This is a good sign. Now it says press any key to start, which is again a good sign that it detected the ISO file. Now Proxmox is booting from the ISO file. Okay, there you go. So we have the first window, which is asking for the language and time and other stuff. So we're gonna leave everything to default, at least in my case. There is a nice trick out there that if you pick English world, then some of the bloatware are not installed by default, so you could do that. But as I said, I'm going to show you tweaks later to remove the bloatware. So let's just pick the default one here, or pick the one that's appropriate for your region. Hit next. By the way, the steps I am showing here are for Tiny11 Windows ISO image, but the steps are pretty much exactly the same for the official Windows image as well. What is also nice to know is that once you have the Tiny11 image installed, the activation process, Windows update process, everything works exactly how it does on an official Windows installation. Okay, moving on. I accept the terms and conditions. I know exactly every word of it. I'm kidding. Now, notice that there is no disk shown here where we could install Windows. This is because the drivers are not loaded, and this is the reason why we downloaded the VirtIO driver ISO image. Okay, going back now, we're going to open up that ISO file by browsing. Here you go, it's been mounted right here. So if we expand that and go into AMD 64, don't get confused, AMD, Intel, don't worry about it. Pick AMD 64 right now, and Windows 11. This did not exist in previous versions of this ISO image. Now we have Windows 11. We're going to pick that and hit next. And the drivers are going to be automatically recognized and installed. Now, that's done. Now you see an unallocated disk that we can use to install Windows 11. We're gonna do that right now. We're gonna use the entire disk and hit apply, and that's it. Now Windows installer is going to automatically create a bunch of different partitions. The partition that will have the Windows installation files will be this third one right here. Now we're not done on this window right here, but if you accidentally continue at this stage, unfortunately many guides and videos do not show this step, and you might get stuck later on. If you continue at this point, you're gonna face an error. You're going to see this "let's connect you to a network" error message, and the installer keeps waiting and waiting and waiting because there is no network. You have to install a network driver first. So let's head back to the installer screen right here, and we're gonna do a load driver one more time, browse through to the same ISO image that's been mounted. This time we will go to net KVM, and right here we'll go to Windows 11, and inside that we're gonna go to AMD 64. ARM is not what most of you might be using, so we'll just go to AMD. And right there is the driver. We're gonna hit next to install the driver for net. Now that the network drivers are installed, when Windows boots up, it will be able to connect to the internet and get any information that it needs to have. Okay, so let's pick partition number 3, as I said before, and hit next and let Windows do its thing. Okay, it went through the installation process, installed some updates, and it is restarting right now, and will continue when it's done. Okay, the installer restarted. Here we are on the setup screen. So let's go through the steps one at a time. Is this the right country or the region? Pick your region. Let's hit continue. And it's going to ask you for the keyboard, US, continue. I do not want to add a second keyboard right now, so I will hit continue and keep moving. It's checking for updates and will install it. This is the place where you would get stuck if you forgot to install the network driver. Okay, the virtual machine restarted again, but if you're still watching, please hit that like and subscribe button. Here we go. It's asking for my name, so let's put my name on here. Now, again, this installer has been modified, so it's asking for the name and it's creating a local account. If you were to use the official ISO image, you would be asked to sign into your Microsoft account or create a new one. So let's hit next, and password. I'm just gonna pick something simple right now. Keep going. There you go. Security questions, a bunch of different things. So I will just pick something to keep going. 2 right there, and 3. Okay. All right. So we're done with these. Let's see what comes up next. Now here I normally like to customize it a little bit. I leave the location services on, but find my service, find my device, I don't really need that because it's a virtual machine on Proxmox. I don't want to send diagnostic data, tailored experiences, ink and typing. I will turn all of that off. Advertising. So the only thing I leave on is the location. I accept, then continue. Let it finish the rest of the steps. Okay, now Windows is getting some updates and installing them. If you're still watching, please like and subscribe to my channel so you get notified of future videos. Once again, I would really appreciate if you can do that for me. Okay, that took longer than expected. That's because I'm using Tiny 11, which could be a few versions old, and Windows has to pull in a lot of updates and install them. If you use the official ISO image and a newer one, it should go pretty fast. Also, I want to mention that if you run into an error during update, don't worry about it. All the updates will be installed later on as well. So let's move on. I'm going to log in now. There you go. I am in for the first time. Let Windows do its thing again. Wait and wait and wait. Okay, Windows installation is done. I want to reiterate the disclaimer one more time. I'm using Tiny 11, which is not an officially supported image. If you want to be safe, just install the official Windows 11 image. And you can run the tweaks later on to remove the bloatware, clean it up, make it perform better and all that stuff. Now, let's see how Tiny 11 Windows 11 compares to the official Windows 11. So here on my left, I have the Tiny 11 Windows 11 we just finished installing, and on my right, I have the official Windows 11 that was installed previously. They both look exactly the same. There are a few things missing right off the bat. You can see there's no Copilot icon on the right side bottom corner in the Tiny 11 image. Microsoft has been pushing Copilot like crazy into every tool that they have. That's disabled by default. There are a few different things. You don't see the weather on this one right here. And if you just click on the search button right there, you see a bunch of different things here, and also the start button, and go into all apps. You are going to see a lot of them installed by default now. I do not use all of them. I don't know about you guys. So if you do not want a lot of these apps, they're just installed by default. You have no choice. Now, if I go on to Tiny 11, you would see there's not much in here, and it's not even connected to my Microsoft account, so you don't see all the other stuff, my history and all of that stuff here. If I go into all apps, there's not a lot in here. There's only things that are absolutely needed, which is really great. Now, if you decide to connect your Tiny 11, Windows 11 to your Microsoft account, you can still do that. If you want to do that, you can search for accounts and go into sign in options right there. Right here, accounts, and there are two different places here. You can see sign into your Microsoft account. You can do that. At this point, you can activate your Windows, install Windows Update. Everything should run normally. But I promised 5 performance tweaks, and I'm going to show those to you right now. If you pick the world option, as I showed you before, then you should already have very little bloatware, and now would be the point where you could change your region back to US or wherever you're from. Okay, I promised 5 different tweaks. The first one is that I do not like the taskbar style in Windows 11. I prefer the Windows 10 style, but maybe eventually I get used to it. But for now, I want the Windows 10 style. How I can do that is if you go open Explorer, search for Explorer Patcher, you should see the GitHub project. So I'm going to go into view this project right here. And if I go to releases on the right, I should be able to download the latest one. You can see this is a trusted repository. There's almost 21,000 stars right there. By the way, if you still haven't liked the video, please do like it. It's just like giving a star for this repository right there. I would really appreciate that, and it would motivate me to publish more videos. So let's click on assets right now and download the latest version. You will see a warning because it's not an officially Windows recognized executable. So click on the 3 dots right there and keep it. Once again, another warning. So we're going to expand this and say keep it anyways. Now that it's been downloaded, let's run it. You probably will see another warning, maybe not, but no in this case. But you can see my taskbar already disappeared and now it reappeared in a different style, more like Windows 10, which I really like it. So if you prefer, this is one tweak that's available. The next one I really like is the dark mode, but there is an auto dark mode application right here. Another awesome repository liked by several thousand people. So it's called the Windows Auto Night mode, and it can switch between the light and the dark modes automatically based on your location. So let's scroll down this repository, find the download button right here, and we're gonna download the latest version. Once again, it takes you to all the releases. The top one right there, hit the download button. It should download in just a few seconds. There you go, it's done. We're gonna open this file right there, go through the installation procedure. There you go, install. You can install for all users or just for yourself right there. Go through the installation procedure and let it finish. You will have to make a minor change, and I will show you as soon as this installation is done. we're going to launch it. It will automatically open the settings page where you can configure auto night mode. I'm going to enable switching the theme. Now it's already in dark mode right now, but it probably is not aware of my location. So I'm going to change it for sunset or sunrise. There are other options for you to pick from. So I will pick the location based. It automatically picked up my location right there. So remember, when we installed Windows 11, we already enabled location services. Because of that, auto dark mode application was able to pick up the location, and from that, sunset and sunrise were determined, and now it's going to automatically switch based on what we set here. Okay, let's go back now. Tweak number 3 is, look at this on the right side. Learn about this picture. I don't want this icon right there, so if I right click on it, there's no option to remove it. I hate it. So how do we get rid of that? We are going to search for background. Choose your desktop background right there, and it says you need to activate your version of Windows right now. I'm going to do it later on, but that icon that you see on the desktop is because of Windows Spotlight right there. Change it to a different picture, and after that, that icon on the desktop should disappear. Tweak number 4 has something to do with improving the usage of Windows on Proxmox. We're going to do that by installing guest tools. Remember that we added the VirtIO Windows ISO file. So if I open the drive right there and scroll all the way down, I'm going to see VirtIO Windows guest tools. So let's install that. This should install spice enhancements, a few other drivers that will provide you additional features. Let's go through the process right here and finish the installation. There you go. Now you can see the QEMU agent and Spice agent were both installed. What do they mean? Let's go head over to the Proxmox screen right there. So if I click on options right now, you can see that Spice enhancements is disabled. So here I can enable it. What this allows is sharing of folders between the host and the Windows virtual machine. It has something to do with video streaming as well. These options here really depend on your situation, so you have to play around to figure out what works for you, and depending on what you have going on in the screen itself. You also see a message saying that you will have to change the display adapter to be able to use these features. So we will go into, where is that, hardware and display right there. If I click on display, I will have to change it from display to Spice, and you will be able to use the Spice enhanced. QEMU agent is the other one. If I go into options, you should see that it's already enabled, and we install the applications inside Windows as well. As mentioned before, this really helps the interaction between Proxmox and Windows virtual machine. For tweak number 5, we're going to use an application created by somebody called Titus. So if we search for Titus, the first link that shows up is the Windows utility, and this is what we're going to use. It allows you to tweak a bunch of different things on Windows to change the way it looks or change the way it operates, and you can customize it to your liking. Now, if we click on the search button right there and search for PowerShell, and I'm going to click on administrator because you will have to run this as administrator. Right click, and it should automatically paste the command we had just copied. It's going to do a bunch of different things, but in the end, you will see a screen that gives you an overwhelming number of options. And here you go. You can see the amount of options on the screen right there. With just a click of few buttons or enabling some options, you can install a lot of different programs in here. You can also do some performance tweaks. For example, if you want Brave browser, check all of the stuff that you want in here, PDF readers and development tools and BitTorrent clients and everything that's in here. You can check whatever you want and install, and in one go you will have all of those applications installed, which is awesome. So thank you, Chris, for creating this application. Now there's also a tweaks option right there. You can go in here, you can run a bunch of different performance tweaks to improve the way your installation works. For me, once again, let's keep in mind that we just installed Windows 11 in a virtualized environment on Proxmox, so we may not need some of the options that are listed in here. I like to show the file extensions. You can turn that option on. You can disable Bing in this Bing search and start menu if you prefer. So there are a few different things right here. You also see some warnings that you can pay attention to those. It's not recommended, so we'll just leave it on. If you do not like location tracking, you can disable that as well. But I would like to bring your attention to what's on top right here. So here there are some presets that you could use. If I click on minimal, it'll pre-select some of the options for me. We can go from there. If I select laptop, there's a few different things that are going to be enabled. So with this, click on run tweaks and all the tweaks should be done. There are also a few other options here. This is not the purpose of the video, so I am not going to go into details of those things. And here you can also see there's a way to create a micro image of a Windows installation ISO file. You can do that if you prefer so. Okay, that was it. It was a little bit long, but I hope this gave you enough information to install Windows 11 as a virtual machine on Proxmox. Not only that, do some performance tweaks to tweak it just the way you like it. If you like this video, once again, hit that subscribe button right now, and I will see you in my next video. Go Geek Army.